Hey everyone. Recently I got to watch these 4 movies online because Eyez has screwed the system. These 4 movies are now on DVD, which I thought of getting, but I'm like, first I'm going to watch them online, which I did for the last 2 days, 2 to 3 days at least. And yeah, I'm here to get these 4 movies within my review guide for everyone here. And because these movies are kind of like movies I've missed during the summer because I'm more out to see the movies I wanted to watch. So the ones I didn't want to waste my money on, I'll watch them for free online. So I don't waste my precious money on crap. Well, that's just my philosophy. Like, I only go out to see movies in the theater that I want to see. So yeah, those 4 movies I'm giving my review for you guys is All Eyes on Me, Goon 2, Last of the Enforcers, this year's The Mummy, and this year's Baywatch. And let's start off with probably the strongest of the 4, and my favorite of the 4 is Goon 2. This movie is directed by Barachuel. I've always really liked him as an actor. I think he's a really good comedian for his own sake. And this movie is a sequel to the first Goon, which came out back in 2012 or 2011. I think it's 2012. And the first Goon is a very underrated comedy. It may not be one of the best of the 2010s, but it has its own true, genuine heart to it. And I thought the first one was truly shocking for how fun it was. This movie, within all honesty, is probably not a great movie, but I could totally see it being a fairly fun, passable movie for anyone's own taste. I really liked Sean William Scott kind of stepping down now. You know, his wife is pregnant. He's kind of slowing down his career of being hockey, and he's starting up a new rivalry with a new team, and he kind of pairs up with his old rivalry played by Liev Schreiber. And the story kind of goes on forward from there, and you see the twists and turns as it goes along. The action in this movie, especially when within any traditional hockey sense, because I do love watching hockey fights. Hell, I'm freaking born and raised in Canada, and my whole family watches hockey, although not religiously. But my dad loves hockey, and I've seen plenty of hockey fights, and I do love how it captures the fast, rhythmic, almost unpredictable nature of how someone could just go and just kind of going for the 1-2 punch, and it feels so fast and sporadic. I love the I love the action, but I thought it was really well done. Sean William Scott, Liev Schreiber everyone in this movie does a really good job. The writing is fairly generic, but there's enough heart and passion in the movie to really push it forward and make you actually give a damn for the characters as they go along. Granted, not all the comedy works at times. The movie is fairly paint by numbers, generic, and has a stale formulaic plot, which I will say the end itself it's fairly predictable, but again, it's done with such a true sense of a true, genuine heart to it that I was openly like, okay, that was kind of sweet. It's predictable, but it's predictable and corny, but at least it does kind of get you in the traditional feels. At least it's not like it's insulting my love of hockey, but thankfully that's his biggest strength and weakness of Goon 2. Not all the comedy works. There's a good deal of the movie that it does, but I would say if you have seen the first Goon movie, then I would suggest this movie. And as I said in the beginning of this video, it's the best movie of these 4. So yeah, I'm going to give Goon 2, Last of the Enforcers, I'm going to give it a 65%. Shit. Let's go do something first. Alright. I'm just marking them down. My next review for you is this year's The Mummy. Shit, this movie sucks. It's not good. To be honest, it's really bad. When it comes to modern horror movies, this is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This movie is way worse than Amazing Spider-Man 2, because even though I immediately have a soft spot for that movie, for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's so, Same thing with this movie. It's just trying to project this bigger universe. It's not trying to be anything deep for its own sake. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna make this movie. Here's the plot. Here's the characters. But guess what? We're making this a larger universe, which I don't have a problem with. I thought Kong Skull Island was may not be Kong Skull Island for its own sake may not have been smart nor seamless with its connections with this larger universe, but at least it was somewhat seamless at times. Okay, I won't say seamless, but at times it had a certain charm to it. This movie, this felt, it feels kind of sold out. It flows by all subtlety, all sense of tension or build up towards anything in this movie. This movie is, instead of atmosphere and tension and the terror of the original, of like the movies of like Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr.'s era of like those movies, like of the Frankenstein, the Mummy, Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, all those films which I grew up loving due to my dad and my sister loving horror movies, and I've grown up with watching like the Universal classic horror movies. Those movies are atmospheric and tension filled, and this movie is. When I saw the trailer for the movie and I saw everyone's like, oh, this is going to be cool and fun, I knew from the start this movie was going to suck. It looks like it sold out everything. Like, seriously, this movie is generic action with stupid ideals within it. The bigger universe, everyone's kind of phoning it in. The only person who I actually thought somewhat liked came from an actor who I normally don't like, and that's Russell fucking Crowe. I really don't like Russell Crowe to begin with, but he's really kind of surprising me. He's actually kind of fun as Dr. Jekyll / Mr. Hyde. He was fantastic last year in The Nice Guys, and I'm kind of shocked I do really like him here too. Even though he's blatantly this movie's Nick Fury, essentially. He's like, yes, I have connections with other stuff, and I'm like, oh god, like, just be your own thing, movie, just be your own thing. And the action is just generic. The effects are half decent. Tom Cruise tries to be subtle and cool and young. This dude's not young. He's the same age as my dad. He's 55 years old. Or, like, what in the hell are they thinking? Oh shit, this movie is not good. And while it could certainly be summed up as guilty pleasure fun as a whole, I still even doubt to say that. It's like, for what could it be something so cool, subtle, it really just feels so fucking generic, so lame, so predictable, and granted, I love Sofia Boutella, and she does make 3,000, 5,000-year-old mummy sexy as all hell. But really, there's no character to her. She's all physicality, movements, and no sense of character. The main character of Tom Cruise, actors, and Sophia, Annabelle Wallace, and Jake Johnson are just kind of 2D cut-out characters who are extraordinary, forgettable. There's no sense of charm, no likability about this movie. It sucks. I really don't like much. I could at least say the action, for its own sake, can be half fun, and it's for its own sake. And Tom Cruise tries to bring as much charm and personality as possible, but it's taking itself way too seriously by being an action thriller rather than an atmospheric horror film. What more can I say? It sucks. I'm giving this year's Mummy a 21%. Oh fuck me, where is it? Now my third movie for reviewing you guys is All Eyez on Me. Now this movie is kind of like a mix of the other two. It's like there's some good, some bad. This movie is basically a somewhat of a biopic on Tupac Shakur and his life, and he started within the rap career and all that. He kind of rose to his fame. You can see his songwriting process and how he made a lot of stage performances happen, all that. Easily showed off. The best thing about this movie is the actor himself. Holy shit. If there's one thing to praise this movie about, it's the main actor. God damn, is he good. He really does embody the voice, the stature, the feel, the charm, the natural coolness and power within his speech of Tupac Shakur is really damn good. And it's Demetrius Shipp Jr., and he really is just fucking spectacular in this role. I will strongly say he's fucking spectacular. What really makes this movie falter a lot is a sense of approach to the character. This movie's a biofilm, so what I expect from any biofilm is, of course, a sense of here's why this person is so good at what they're doing, but also let's approach it from a realistic angle here, how they were in real life. But unfortunately, this movie does just suffer almost like a fan fiction. I won't say fan fiction, but I would say it's almost like if an obsessed fan wrote this about him. It feels so one-sided, and it doesn't really give him that much clarity to how his friends knew him, or his relationship with, let's say, any other musician of that time, or even seeing how we get to see Notorious B.I.G. in this movie. And it's like, granted, he's also passed away, but seeing all these people that we don't know where they are today, it's like just, it kind of does suffer with so much of his writing and narrative perspective going forward. It feels just like an absolute stroke off. Like, I don't mean to say that because he really is an exceptional musician. And it just feels like it just kind of works. Instead of painting this realistic character, realistic man who did exist, it feels like it's just worship. He made incredible music, and he was one of the absolute best, most influential artists of his own time. But this movie just feels like an absolute praise all worthy to him, and it kind of feels very generic in this story format, and the way it's just shot. It feels with a sense of realism and character and how it takes in its own direction. It just feels really off and greatly disappointing. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's certainly a true disappointment. I'm going to give this movie okay, granted, it has some admittedly good performances with some incredible music parts. But as a whole, it's just kind of like it's fairly disappointing. I'm gonna give this movie a 33, a 35%. Everyone. And my last review is, of course, this year's Baywatch, and this movie has Zac Efron and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and some names I can't fucking pronounce. Okay. What is good about this movie? Baywatch, you may ask. Well, okay, here's a couple of good things. Number one, the first thing that's good about this movie is this. The two main leads have really good chemistry. There's a few small half-hour jokes this week that do somewhat work, but this movie's really not funny. It's just really not good. For a movie like this that's actually kind of like mostly comedy, granted, there's some action here that's fine, that's decently shot, but it's just kind of lame to watch. And this is the last movie that I watched, and I finished it this morning. I was already tired when I was watching it, and this morning when I woke up and I had a fresh sleep, even then, it just kind of felt dreary. This movie is trying to be way too funny for its own sake. It has a few good, decent jokes, but it's just terrible. Again. Oh my god, this movie's just kind of hard to explain, really. It's just really, there's not much charm to it. It feels like it goes too hard for a more exploitative humor, which at times can have a funny effect. But, like, really the funniest thing you say, if you'd ask me, is like, what's the funniest thing about this movie? The funniest thing about it is probably the scene where it's in the morgue, which you see in the trailers or the promo material when the movie's released. There's a few moments where I'm like, there's a few decent laughs there. Just story-wise, it's needlessly complicated. There's a side story thing with drugs, and these new characters, and these side characters who are totally ridiculous. Granted, these are good-looking people. There's no denying that. But it's just it's really, really weak, and it's unfortunate. Because to see such good talent like this kind of wasted. There's a few moments that I immediately giggle at. There's a few good action scenes, but it's trying to be needlessly with this bigger story, like the drug cartel mixing in on the beach, and how it pays homage to classic TV shows with some really bad cameos, to be honest. And how some cameos as bad since last year's Ghostbusters. Yeah, as a whole, I really didn't like this movie. Again, kind of like with some parts of The Mummy, I would say there's some parts where I'm like, okay, I can kind of see this passing off as passable in parts. But as a whole, within, like, if you're connecting the dots within the movie as itself, so it's kind of like, this movie's bad. It's really bad. So just, I would not advise this movie. I'm going to give it 23%. Actually, I'm going to give it a 25%. So yeah, everyone, that's my review on these 4 movies for all of you. As a whole, really, that's really kind of it. And hopefully, at some point, I'll have my favorites and my least favorites of this year's summer movies for you guys. And yeah, hopefully that will come out sometime soon. Till then, everyone, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you. Actually, tomorrow, which will be a Friday, this video will be coming out, as well as my favorites and least favorites of this summer, as I've been doing for the last few years. And yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you until then. Bye bye. I know this video will be overly long, but as it is, thank you very much for watching. These movies were aside from Goon, these movies were not easy to sit through.